Well, hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to our second installment of our OutLap Preview Podcast for this year's Superkarts USA SuperNationals. My name is Rob Howden. That is David Cole below me. Nate Dean getting ready to roll in for the second half of our essentially preview show. Look at the entry list, little prediction action. The first one's already up on YouTube right now. Obviously, those of you who maybe have missed the first one, you can go back and see that. Otherwise, the second here with another 5 categories that we'll have coming up for the event, which will take place next week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The 26th running, David of the SuperNationals. I've been to all 25. Excited to get to number 26. It's going to be an interesting one. They just released the track today, so that's going to be a talking point for sure.
Yeah, last night they popped it up on social media. We were able to share it this morning because I think I was actually in bed going through my phone when it popped up on social media. I know you were, Rob. You're old. But yeah, 26th edition. You've been to all 25 previously. I started in 2004, so you got 7 on me, which is good. Plus an additional one that I missed because my son was born. So
that's it.
But
that's
yeah.
Timing.
It didn't work out in the scheduling. Not like karting today.
Right. Folks, this is the 65th edition of our EKN OutLap, our preview podcast. It always kicks off our Trackside Live coverage. Again, today is November the 2nd. We're getting set to go with this one here. We're going to talk about KA100 Junior, X30 Junior, KA100 Senior, X30 Senior, and of course, Pro Shifter as well. Today's show, though, presented by Sodi Racing USA. It's a multi-time world champion, and it's a SKUSA SuperNationals winner. It is Sodikart. And starting in 2023, the Sodi brand has found a new home here in the United States. Sodi Racing USA is the new exclusive importer of the Sodikart chassis line under the karting distribution banner. The French manufacturer Sodikart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Sodikart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodikart, the world leader in the karting industry. All right, guys, we weren't able to talk about it in the first show yesterday, primarily because, as David said, it didn't launch until last night. But let's go around the horn a bit. David, let's talk about the track. What do we got for corners? Maybe a thought on length? Obviously, we have no idea. All we saw was a diagram.
Yeah, let me just stick to the basics. We have 9 turns according to their diagram. Tight confines, a number of 180s that, along with an S's section. Very long straightaway that includes a couple kinks coming into what will be a 180, which is essentially the first turn. So it's kind of a takeoff what we've seen before and what we've had before with a long straightaway. But I think this one's going to be actually really long. Like looking at Google Map and trying to measure everything out without them giving us the actual details of the track, because obviously they're still building it right now. Looks like to be maybe 1,000-foot straightaway if you include all the different kinks and within it. So essentially the last corner, turn 9, all the way to turn 1 could be about 1,000 feet.
Yeah, with the curve too. Like, Nate, that's going to be interesting. If a guy's going to kind of be getting inside you all the way down to that corner, that could present a bit of a problem with the curve all the way down the straightaway.
Yeah, the track is definitely not what I thought it would be. It looks really fast and flowing, almost if you've ever wanted to drive the Saudi Arabian Formula One circuit, but in a kart, this is going to be the closest thing you're going to get to it. But that 1,000-foot straightaway is really something that's going to probably be a talking point throughout the weekend. It seems like there is still a lot of passing opportunities. I know we talked in the last show about how the potential of it being tight and technical, it will be. And while that kind of middle section does have those types of corners, it still should be fast and flowing and good for racing.
I think it speaks, David and Nate, to kind of what they had to work with, right? We kind of see the way the track was kind of built in this way. Obviously, they didn't have a huge, big rectangle to drop a track in. I haven't had a chance to look at the Google the maps on top to have a look down at it, like Google Earth, to have a look. David, you obviously has. It looks like there really wasn't a lot to work with in terms of how they had to kind of lay out the track itself.
Well, it's all based on what they're given. you know, and where the paddock can be, where the track can be. So a lot of that has to factor in of what you can build. And again, like I said from the beginning, they were when they came out with the pit map, they're going to be limited in the amount of space that you can utilize for the racetrack. Now, to me, looking on the outside, not knowing exactly what it'll end up being until we get there. You get there Monday, we get there Tuesday. It looks like it's going to be a defensive racetrack. It looks like guys are going to be able to run around maybe one or two spots where if you run defensive, it might hurt you. But if you have all these kinks in the straightaway, I mean, you just run to the inside. And
so I was thinking.
And so there's only the one section that has a crossback, maybe the S part. That's going to be probably the slowest part of the racetrack, depending on how they build it again, too, because we were talking off the air. It reminds me of some of the tracks we had at the Westgate or at the convention center. And then I think it was 2 years ago at the Rio when we had the really tight section before leading onto the straightaway. So I think guys are going to be running defensive lines a lot, even in heat races. And that's, you know, there's just not a lot of crossback because when you have the track going from left to right, that's where you get the opportunities for people to dive in and make a better pass, to where here you just, especially shifter guys, they're going to just hold the inside line, I think, for a majority of the lap.
And we're watching for pushback bumper penalties, that's for sure.
Yeah, does just shifter? I can't remember if
I don't think they do.
Superkarts USA. I can't remember if they do or not. But yeah, I mean, especially for all the other categories, you know, you look at, you know, a lot of the mini drivers, they're already in defensive mode in heat races that we've seen throughout the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see it in all the different categories.
So Nate, let's go back to you again. We did this yesterday. We're kind of going to run through the event schedule as we did. We'll have a look, of course, we'll talk about the weather a bit like we did the start of the first show, but let's have a look at the event schedule, a pretty basic approach to what Scoos has been doing over the 5 days of competition over the years past.
Yeah, so starting things off, Wednesday, you'll have 4 rounds of practice. That'll be 7 minutes each, with the last session sets up your qualifying group. Move on to Thursday, 2 rounds of practice, the first one being 7 minutes, and then the second being the all-important 12-minute session. Qualifying will be 5 minutes per group. Move on to Friday, that'll be your warm-up, and then 2 rounds of heats again. USA. Saturday, again, have a warm-up and then 1 round of heats, and then the LCQs for the morning and the afternoon sessions. And then finally wrapping it up on Sunday with the warm-up session in the morning and then main events in the morning and afternoon.
I think one thing we didn't bring up in the first show either was the morning and afternoon breaks, right? So in the mornings, the morning groups, group 1 will have the KA100 Junior class, KA100 Senior, KA100 Master, and Micro Swift. And then in the afternoon sessions, group 2 will be Mini, X30 Junior, Master Shifter, X30 Senior, and Pro Shifter. I don't think we brought that up yesterday. I figured that'd be a good idea. Yeah. So you know whether or not you have to be up in the morning or if you can sleep in. You're either staying up late and sleeping in, or you're getting up early and going to bed early.
Yeah, the KA100 Master drivers, yeah, they're stuck again in the morning session. So it was originally scheduled for the PM, but with the way they reordered things, they brought it back to the morning. So I think that's pretty much what it was last year, if I recall correctly. It was all the KAs in the morning, and then they threw in Micro Swift as well. So yeah, adding. So we're gonna have 5 categories in the afternoon. So those are going to kind of be the crazy time to be trackside, to where, you know, K Junior, K Senior. Yeah, that was a little bit crazy. And of course, your Masters guys are always wrecking on the opening corner too. So not that bad.
Well, I was able to get through it. It happened. The Masters guy still did it. Trust me. It was a disaster. Yesterday, we talked a lot about it being potentially in the 70s all week. I just had a look at my phone here right now. 70s earlier in the week, potentially into the mid to low 60s. I'm seeing on my phone for the weekend. So it could be a little cooler race weekend wise, as opposed to kind of the way the weather's kind of evolving moving into next week.
And the way where the track is set up, again, it's outside the front straightaway, just outside turn 4 of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway oval. I think it's going to get a lot of sun once the sun does rise. You know, obviously in the early mornings, I think it's going to be very chilly. because the sun's got to get above the speedway in order to hit the racetrack. It might hit the actual paddock area first before it hits the racetrack itself. So we'll kind of have to watch that during the morning hours.
Good point.
And then when the sun sets, at least, we'll be out in the sun. I don't think there's any blockage in terms of the speedway or any buildings. So we should get full sun towards the end of the day. Depending on, sunset time, like maybe we'll have some breaks in there as well too. I don't think they're on the schedule as of right now. So we'll have to, with that long straightaway. And if you're going directly into the sun with that long straightaway, again, looking at the way the map is and the track layout's going to be, the long straightaway is essentially going towards the sunset. So they may have to kind of go with the flow and institute a sunset break depending on the time of day, and again when it's setting, because I don't even know what time it's supposed to set.
So right now it's like 5:43 in Las Vegas, and we're looking to be done at 5:40. So the way things are shaken for all the days, we'll be done before the sun sets. And one of the differences, we had to have the sunset break at the Rio because it was kind of coming down behind the Rio, so it was down earlier, right? We used to have
you got to remember when it's coming down. Like you think about it, like Road Atlanta in October was the same situation. You would go through the first corner and you're essentially going uphill and you're looking right at the sun as it's going down. So the angle of the sun is not good. So I think I know Nate's like, this is too much debrief. How low the sun is at this time of year, again, it's not very high. And so I think it's going to be a possible situation for the front straightaway. So I think we might, at the end of the day, they might have to institute, because if the sun's still up there and it's coming down and it's right in the guy's eyes down that long straightaway hitting 80, 90 miles an hour, they may want to wait and put the lights on and go later.
I don't disagree with you on that. Let's have a look at the numbers here. 527 pre-entries for this one here. Not a record or anywhere near the record, but still a fantastic turnout so far at 527, especially when we've lost one category in X30 Master. David, let's have a look. KA100 Junior, maybe the two of the big things to jump on. KA100 Junior, the biggest field we've seen for SuperNationals. 85 drivers in that class. Man, making the main is going to be a feat for sure.
Yeah, it's a record number for the junior category. We've never had a junior class this large be single speed, or I believe even in the shifter ranks, looking back at some of the old entry numbers back then. So this is going to be the largest junior field at the SuperNationals ever. So it's an amazing feat. And again, KA100 Junior, that's been the category all season long. We've seen numbers in the 50s everywhere we've been to. So that's kind of it. Great to see X30 Junior back and holding strong at 46. That's a solid number, and we'll talk more about it. But I want to say it's 30 drivers in the junior category doing both categories. Wow. So a lot of drivers doing double duty.
Nate, we've seen KA100 Senior big all year long everywhere. It's not surprising that we're going to see 76 drivers, a couple more than last year.
Yeah, like you said, 76 drivers, 74 last year. But when you go back to 21, 93. So that was always going to be a pretty hard number to beat. No class reaching that so far. With the other senior categories, 63 for X30 Senior, a bit of a dip as they had been at 87 for the past 2 years before that. But we've seen a bit of a dip in X30 Senior throughout all series between USPKS and SCUSA between the past year. And then Pro Shifter, holding pretty much the same from what we had last year. 71 entries for the 2023 edition. We had 73 last year, and then going back to 2150. So overall, upward trajectory for Pro Shifter at the moment.
And 71, come on. 63 in your two pro classes, 63 and 71. Those are great numbers for this event, I think.
Yeah, I looking at it, 50 has been probably the maximum. So this is a record number. I even look at that till just now. This is the most entries we've ever had in the headline category, because even back in the old days when it was S1, you had 60 or 50 drivers back at the Xplex back in the early days in the top level shifter kart category. So 74, a new record for Superkarts USA.
Is it 74 or 71?
Oh, sorry, 74 was last year. Sorry.
All right, we're right there though.
So close, close to another record. So last year was a record.
That's solid. All right, folks, our first break in the action right now. When we get back after this one, we're going to jump right into it. We'll go KA100 Junior. We'll, of course, go through the kind of class itself. We'll talk about some of the names, and, of course, we'll give you our predictions to see who we think is going to make up the top 5. Again, those of you watching here on YouTube, we're just kind of setting things up for the podcast as well. We'll have those commercials locked into our podcast, which will be available early next week as well. Back at it here again for the OutLap podcast, the second of the 2 installments of this for this year's Superkarts USA SuperNationals, the 26th running of the event this year out of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The track just rolled out last night by Superkarts USA. Very long, not a big, huge footprint, so it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. We mentioned already, though, 85 entries in the KA100 Junior category, sponsored by Avinco Tires. David, former winners include Stephen Miller, a driver who's looking to see if he can go back-to-back. Jerry Fletcher won back in 21, Brent Cruz in 2019, James Wharton in 2018 in this KA100 Junior category. We'll see if Miller has what it takes. He comes in as the Pro Tour champion, though, so I think obviously a bit of chip on his shoulder coming in.
Yeah, well, I think the chip is because he didn't win it on the racetrack. He won it in a after penalties, so didn't get to celebrate. Didn't get to see a couple of those last year. Didn't get to celebrate the actual victory on the podium. Got the trophy afterwards. So I guess you could say that's kind of the chip. It's also an interesting season for him because he's moved from teams. He went from Chad Dawkin Racing to recently just to Nash Motorsports aboard the EOS. So. But as you said, able to secure the SCUSA Pro Tour Championship before that move and was among the front runners in the United States Pro Car Series all season long in this category. That, again, we've seen record numbers across the board. So to be able to do that against the big numbers, big fields, and strong competition is solid.
Both drivers behind him in the points, Max Taylor and Ernesto Rivera, moved up to the senior category. Keegan Kaminsky coming home in 4th, and Alex Mercado rounding out the top 5 in the points. David, you mentioned just one KA100 Junior SuperNationals winner in the field, which is
Stephen Miller.
Stephen Miller, right? Will he go back to back? We'll see on the predictions in a second. But 3 former SuperNationals winners. David, you got the notes down. Who are we have who've actually won before?
3 former winners. You got Enzo Vidmontien. A mini Swift winner back. Trying to figure out get my notes right. 2021, and then last year's micro Swift winner, Jackson Gibson, making the jump from micro just 1 year to KA100 Junior. So this is his first official start. I know he's been doing a lot of testing in Europe and at home in the junior kart, but ran mini all season long. So at 10 years old, moving to KA100 Junior. So we'll have to kind of get more information on that from Superkarts USA. He's not the only 10-year-old. I think there was another in the field looking, and can't find it right now. So.
9 different countries represented in the field, 26 coming from outside the United States, 26 drivers. So again, looking at that, somewhere right around the 30%, 33% mark. All told, a pretty good field of drivers. David, let's do we want to roll with our predictions first, then come back and look at the entry list?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's roll with the flow. I had the best predictions last year, so again, I get the first dibs at showing the my predictions for this year. I'll go over the score last year. Looking at it,
I got one.
It was what's that?
I said there's one class where I'm going first.
Yeah, there is one class. Yeah, there is one class, but this one we actually did terrible. We all did. I was the only one who had a top 5 finisher. One top 5 finisher. Both yourself and Nate had 0. So, wow. Yeah, it wasn't hard to kind of
impressive. Nate, you're impressive.
Yes, you guys were very impressive. So here is my prediction for KA100 Junior. I got to go with the flow. Augustus Toniolo won at Rock Vegas. I think he's going to come in after racing in Europe all season long and be able to show the way here. At the SuperNationals. It's not his first time racing at the SuperNationals, as he was in the was 5th in this category last year. So he's one of the only few drivers returning, of course, him and Stephen Miller from the podium last year. Enzo Vidmontien, we talked about it, former winner at the SuperNationals, does very well. He's had 3 top 10 finishes over the last 3 SuperNationals. Finished 7th last year in this category in his junior race or rookie race in the category. So I put him up to 2nd. Stephen Miller in 3rd. again, he's been good all season long, no doubt about it. Won the championship. I just don't see him coming out on top. I think Toniolo is going to be just very dominant in this category. And then I have in fourth place Oliver Weldon. Weldon's making his second start in the category at the SuperNationals with the DNF last year, but has shown really fast all season long. I just think he's going to methodically keep himself in the hunt. I don't think he's going to be one of the quickest. I think he's just going to stay out of trouble and find his way onto the podium in fourth. And then my wild card is Christian Cameron. We haven't heard much of Christian throughout the 2023 season. We know he was at the Challenge of the Americas, but he finished 10th last year. So certainly has the ability to be there and be in contention. And again, with 85 drivers, there's a lot of different combinations. And again, I'm trying to think of what you guys are going to pick and who's going to be fast. And so this is my top 5 for this year's SuperNationals KA100 Junior.
All right, looking good. All right, what's Nate Dean's up next? He and I obviously got 0 last year, so hopefully we're trying to change that trend coming into 2023. Nate, what do you got?
So, like we've said, Stephen Miller being very consistent throughout 2023 with him making the move from Chad Dawkin Racing on the Kart Republic going to National Motorsports. He seemed like he's found a little bit of his pep in his step a little bit after that move. So I think he'll be strong for 2023 in the SuperNationals. I have him to win, as I'm going to pull my list up here just in a second. Yeah, I have Stephen Miller taking the win there. Coming in second for me, Isaac Malcuit, who's been very consistent this year. His first full campaign in KA100 Junior category and the junior division to begin with. So I think he'll do good as well. Diego Ardiles for RPG Cosmic, I think will be in there in third. Austin Olds has been strong throughout USPKS and Route 66 and whatever races he's run. Didn't have the best of luck at Rock Vegas this year with his engine blowing on Friday and then having to move up to senior. And then Alex Mercado, like we said, who got in the top 5 for points at Supercars USA Pro Tour this season. I think he'll be that wild card for KA Junior.
Yeah, I like it. That's David. He shook it up on you a little bit. There's a couple new names in there.
And like, you know, looking at it, I could have easily put those 5 into my top 5 because those are all solid drivers.
Yeah.
You know, Austin Olds is probably the more experienced driver out of the field compared to Vidmontien and Miller. He's the elder of the category. As you said, ran senior at the Rock Vegas event after an engine issue. He's ran senior at a couple other events as well, too. So bad luck seems to follow him. So that's the only reason I kept him out of my top 5. But you know, I'm rooting for him, rooting for Alex Mercado. I think he's going to be quick as well as Diego Ardiles and Malcutt as well.
It's a good one. All right. I like that he went in a different direction. That's for sure. You and I are more alike, I think, to a certain extent, David, because I roll in with Stephen Miller coming out with the win. I'm thinking just the success he's had all year long, another year here. Like I said, the focus I wanted to try to win on the racetrack. You mentioned that, David. But Stephen just had such a strong season. I'm going to put Stephen Miller P1. I'm with you that Augustus Toniolo will be in the fight. I have no doubt he's going to be in the middle of the scrap as well. Turner Brown's a young kid that has really impressed me throughout the 2023 season. He's really come up big with the team that he runs with. A lot of big support coming out of that crew at Speed Concepts Racing. And I just feel like this will be I think he has the momentum coming in where he's going to be really good out of the gate. You mentioned how Weldon's been always there, even though he's one of the young, on the younger side of this category. He is so unbelievably focused on the track. We see him in the top 5, top 6 on a regular basis. He eventually comes up, to the lead at one point. He knows how to go to the front, and he really knows how to handle himself. I like this. I like the racecraft we've seen out of Oliver this year. Really kind of, biding his time and kind of picking his spots and kind of seeing the race play out. That's what I've seen out of him. And last but not least, I'm going with Keegan Kaminsky in P5 right now. Kaminsky, one of the reasons why I kind of went with him, of course, one of the drivers for GFC Karting and Formula Works. Top 4, as we know, in the championship points. We mentioned that already. So he's been a front runner throughout the season. He was strong last year. So he's done this class before at the SuperNationals, was 11th last year. So I figured this year would be his move forward. So I'm moving Kaminsky into the top 5. So I like the fact that we're not all up on top of each other with the same picks. This is going to be an interesting one. Someone's going to come up on top for sure. This isn't one of these ones where we're going to have like a stalemate, I think.
No, it looks good. Miller, you both have Miller winning, so that'll help me in the points if he doesn't. And again, yeah, Turner Brown, great selection. So that's kind of your one, and him and Kaminsky are kind of the two that are different from both me and Nate. So there's 85 drivers in this field, and we could have picked any of them.
Yeah.
And these are all good combinations, and there's probably a bunch more we could have added into the mix there that could have been in a top 5 contender and still can be. That's the thing. Again, these are just educated guesses based on our passion and love for the sport of karting.
That's it, man. Like we've got drivers that we've seen be good this year, right? David mentioned Kristen Cameron already, but Chase Bisaglia has had a really good year as well, right? He's a kid that's kind of come up and won some races. You think about a Jackson Wolney, who's become a front runner. Peyton Westcott has been, the young lady out of California, has been stepping up. She's qualifying top 10, top 5 on a regular basis. Dave?
There's a bunch of Canadians in there, Rob. You didn't pick a single one. I mean, you got Jensen Burnett coming in to race. You got Nathan Dupuis, Ty Fisher. Those are some Canadians that have the opportunity to be top 10, if not top 5 as well, too.
All of those drivers. Exactly that. That's why at 85, I think I texted you when I was trying to pick my message up and said, this is so hard right now. I spent a long time picking these, and I should have just went in and just did it and got it done. But I spent a couple hours doing it.
That's what I did. So Nate, you made your top 5. Who did you leave out that you think that we haven't maybe mentioned that you think could be a contender next weekend?
About 25, 30 drivers.
So you don't want to narrow it down to a couple, just 25, 30.
Perfect. I'm with you on that.
I went through the entry list and I just put a little red highlight over the team that was next to the driver and thought about the season, went through. I'm like, okay, shouldn't be that many, and look through them like 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Like, oh, damn. But there's so many. I didn't put Turner Brown on mine for KA. He's been really strong more towards the X30 side of things. So we'll talk about that in a little bit when we come to X30. But I think you guys really touched on, the main contenders that could be fighting for that podium. I mean, it's just the thing that you can see in KA Senior or X30 Senior that there are going to be 20 or 30 drivers that can compete for that podium and for that top 10 that weekend.
I think I got a few more.
All right, Dave. What else you got?
We haven't talked about Jackson Wolney. I think
I just did.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Landon Skinner.
Didn't talk about Landon. Yeah.
Landon to Texas, along with Diego Guiot. He's come on really strong towards the end of the season. So he could be another driver that we talk about. Nix Eggleston, the Challenging America's champion. He's great in the single speed stuff, been really well. So he could be another one as well. So those are kind of some names. And then Truly Adams, that's another name as well too. Nearly won the Tillotson T4 Nations Cup that actually went to Chase Biscaglia. So Team USA doing really well over there. But
and a Pro Tour winner this year, right?
And, yeah, but Adams is a Pro Tour winner. So yeah, that's, again, a lot of different winners on the season, a lot of different names that have the ability to be up front. So I guess I think Nate's in the right mix. There's about 30 drivers with the chance of not only finishing on the podium, but maybe even winning the thing.
That's it. All right, folks, let's go to a break here right now. When we come back, we'll hit into X30 Junior. That is it for KA100 Junior. Stay tuned. X30 Junior up next. Welcome back to part 2 of our EKN OutLap, our preview podcast for this coming next week's actually Superkarts USA SuperNationals number 26. This show brought to you by Sodi Racing USA. Myself, David Cole, and Nate Dean here rolling through the categories, also giving us the predictions. X30 Junior up next, brought to you by Speed Lab Racing Engines. 46 entries in total in X30 Junior. Of course, winning last year, Ernesto Rivera, chased by his teammate Caleb Gaffera the entire time. That was kind of the breakout last year for Rivera, winning in this category. Jeremy Fletcher coming home as the winner a couple of years ago. James Wharton, Jeremy Fairbairn, Jack Crawford, and Tyler Gonzalez, the most recent winners, at least of the X30 Junior, David. It was Tag Junior back in the day. And again, we mentioned this yesterday. Look at some of these names. Logan Sargent, now a Formula One racer, won in 2014. Lance Stroll, Formula One racer, won in 2012. George Russell, Formula One racer, won in 2011. And then you go back to guys like Jake Dennis and Felipe Fraga. This category, we've drawn a lot of Formula One drivers, future Formula One drivers, to this event. Hopefully, we'll continue to do that. But man, this one here particularly stacked in terms of the archive.
Yeah, going back to 2008 when the tag junior category was implemented into the SuperNationals. They obviously had junior classes before that with JICA 1 year and ADCC junior shifter in the same year, won by Connor De Felipe, one of the only few drivers to double win in a weekend. And it was Jeremy Fletcher was able to duplicate that, winning both X30 Junior and KA100 Junior in the same year in 2021, the last time we were at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So,
what chassis was De Felipe on?
In which I believe
when he won JICA and 80 Junior.
I believe they were both KRT.
ARTs.
Yeah. So
well
I don't. Okay. What chassis did he win when he won S1?
Wow, you're spicy.
What chassis did he win when he was in S1?
I have no CRG.
There you go. Because it was just shown on a graphic they shared
that's true.
Recently.
True.
So yeah, I was going to say you better know that.
Easy.
But yeah, so the interesting part about this category, we have no former winners in the field. So we're going to have, I believe, what is going to be the 15th different winner in this category.
That's wild.
Which is just phenomenal. I mean, that alone speaks for the junior racing out of the SuperNationals itself, is to have 15 different winners over 15 editions of the SuperNationals. So there are 2 former winners in the field. We'll get into that a little bit later when we kind of talk more about drivers. There's only 6 drivers who are graduating from the mini class racing in this division this year. So it's strange. We think there's probably more, but there's only 6 drivers who actually raced mini Swift last year that are racing X30 Junior this year. So I think a lot more of them are in the KA100 Junior category rather than this. So that's an interesting note. We have 16 drivers representing 11 different countries. 10 different countries, 11 in total countries represented with the United States. And as I mentioned earlier, 30 different drivers doing double duty. So also racing KA100 Junior as well. So that's more than half the field. So a lot of them are going to have the opportunity to have that morning session, figure out the racetrack, figure out the settings, and move forward in the afternoon, especially on Wednesday, and be fast right away. So expect to see a lot of those double duty drivers at the top of the charts Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, and think about that too. We're going to get a really good look on Wednesday, right? The very first couple of sessions there on who's going to be fast, because you said 30 of the 46 have already going to have 4 sessions already in the book. So those guys are going to unload and get rolling. They'll be rubber down.
And think about it. Wednesday morning, the morning sessions, all those guys are doing is cleaning the racetrack for the afternoon, essentially. So, so if you're not double duty, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But again, really, the rubber doesn't start going down until Thursday.
All right, let's roll into the predictions. David, you won this one last year.
Yes, last year, X30 Junior, we actually tied, Rob, so we both had 3 points.
Why did you give it to me first?
Because I won overall. So again, the tiebreaker goes to me because I won overall. That's how this system works. If you don't like it, you're more than welcome to do the system yourself.
No, you're good.
But yeah, we both had 3 drivers in the top 5. Nate had 2 drivers in the top 5. So I think this category we had pretty figured out last year. So it was probably one of the better ones that we had overall on the event. So yeah, I'll get into my predictions now. And I have Turner Brown taking the victory. I think he's been the shocker. He's been the shocker on the season, coming up with a victory in his debut at the SCUSA Summer Nationals at Newcastle, and then winning at the USPKS event, making him the August driver of the month. I think the momentum's on his side. I think he and the Speed Concepts Racing have this package figured out, and it's working great. He finished 9th last year in Mini. I see no reason why he can't go right out and win it this year right away. I have Augustus Tonliolo finishing in the 2nd spot. Again, we talked about him in KA100 Junior. I have him winning that race. I have him finishing 2nd in this. So, but he has the ability to win both as well, along with Turner Brown, to to match that Connor De Felipe and Jeremy Fletcher record of winning 2 races in the same SuperNationals. So Jackson Wolney, driver we talked about just recently in KA100 Junior, I think he's really good in the X30 side of things. Was top 5 championship finisher in SCUSA and USPKS. So I think he's got the ability to be there, and especially working with Turner Brown under the SCR tent. I think that'll be a good mix. But then you got to throw in the RPG guys again, Augustus Toniolo Racing RPG, along with Diego Ardiles. He's come on late as well too. I've seen a lot of good things out of him. He was able to win at the last round of the USPKS event. So again, this is something, he finished 6th in this category last year. Why not finish a little bit more this year? And then rounding out my top 5 is international driver Gianmatteo Rousseau, the junior rookie driver, is moving up into this category this year. So he's one of those 6 drivers that is moving from mini to X30 Junior. Rousseau has been a very fast competitor here in the United States. Oh, I was on the wrong entry list. That's why I couldn't find my notes. Racing under the Trinity Karting Group on the Kart Republic. If we know anything, the Kart Republic brand is running really well. He ran 3rd place in mini last year, was 7th place in the Micro Swift the year before. I see no reason why he can't be up front right away and getting on the podium in his first SuperNationals in the X30 Junior.
Big. All right.
You got to go big. It's
why not?
Come on now.
SuperNats. All right. Let's roll to mine. I'm next.
No,
right?
Nate's next.
Nate's next? I thought we were tied. Well,
right. Yeah. I wrote that wrong.
That's fine.
I'll go now.
I'll go you. Nate. No worries.
No, we'll go you.
All right.
There we go.
All right. So got some of the same names in there. Not all of them. Augustus Toniolo. Again, I just think I said it before for the KA juniors. I think he is going to be a beast all weekend long. I worked with the guys at Rawlson Performance Group last year, so I know how they handled their driver debriefs and going over data. It's pretty impressive. And Toniolo, I had, even though I was working with Ben Cooper and Chase Denmark last year, essentially as our driver coaches of the Masters categories, I spent some time watching, Ryan Norberg and the guys over there working with the juniors, and they push those kids hard. And I think that Toniolo coming off the win at Rock Vegas is going to be big for him. Getting that feel for running on, a temp circuit. I think he's going to be great out of the box. You mentioned Enzo Vidmontien, David, as well. Vidmontien was 9th last year. Perfect opportunity for him now to step up into the top 5. Diego Ardiles as well. We mentioned the same thing. He was 6th last year. So, I see him jump his way up. Jackson Wolney's been very impressive to me as well with SCR. So I put Jackson in 4th. And although Stephen Miller has been the dominant factor, I think, in KA100 Junior throughout the season, kind of got bested by Ernesto Rivera most of the year in the X30 Junior category. I still think he's going to be in the fight. I see him coming home at least somewhere inside the top 5, right, to get the points I need. But for the official position, I slotted him into P5. But I think Toniolo is going to go away with the win here.
That's interesting. Not a bad call. Not a bad call at all. And again, those are 5 drivers I could easily have in my top 5 as well.
Yeah.
Let's transfer over to Nate's predictions now.
Yeah, so going with the same as what you said, David, for who will, I think at least, will be on the top step come Sunday. Turner Brown has been very impressive. Very impressive in his junior debut this season. Of course, crossing the line first in mini last year, but getting that penalty post-race. You could see when you were down there, and Rob, you were interviewing him, so you definitely saw this, just the emotion and what that meant to him, obviously, before that. So for him to have this momentum now in this X30 Junior category, and for him to have this redemption arc that he's going to want, I think he'll take the top spot. Toniolo is another impressive driver in the past couple of weekends that I've been focusing on him on the RPG Cosmic. He's been very quick, and I think he'll definitely be on the podium in X30 Junior. Diego Ardiles, another RPG Cosmic I have in 3rd, who's, like David has said, really come on in the second half of the season for them. He looks like he should be impressive at the SuperNationals. Oliver Weldon, I will have in 4th. He was mentioned in KA Junior. I'll have him in X30 Junior. He's been pretty quiet when it comes to race weekends for him. He's not really the aggressor. He just waits for everything to fall his way and then take the position when he gets it. I think he'll be fourth. And then Enzo Vidmontien, another one of the drivers who started off the season on a chassis and has moved about mid-season to early season to a different one. I think he will be rounding out the podium for X30 Junior.
So interesting, guys. I think all told, we split 8 different drivers based on what I put here on my thing. So we've got, there are some similarities, but total of 8 drivers we have collectively posted potentially within the top 5. There are a lot more, David, as we said. You even said with mine that we could have picked all of them. I think the same with Nate's. We could easily have picked Nate's, but it's the same guys we talked about in juniors in the KA rather, right? A Jensen Burnett could be a driver who steps up. Nathan Dupuis or Nick Eggleston, Ty Fisher, Diego Giot. I'm just looking at guys at kind of the top of the entry list right now. As you can keep going down, there are drivers you could expect to potentially see up front, like an Alex Mercado. Nate picked him in the KA Junior category. You've got drivers like Charlie Smith. You've got some other drivers that could potentially work their way up. And again, I mentioned Peyton Westcott in the KA class as well, so she could be in there as well. There's lots of really good drivers. Again, it's coming out of the gate. Are you strong? Is your team strong? Do you have everything you need to perform at the biggest race of the year?
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, there were only 16 drivers from outside the USA. Well, 10 of them are Canadian. So I think that's the one thing we're kind of missing is a lot of the international stars coming over. Because as we went through some of the older past winners, it was a lot of international stars that came over and were competitive.
Brazil, Australia.
Yeah. Exactly. And all the Europeans. So I think maybe, I don't know if it's because of the age shift, because, FIA karting has a lower range for senior racing. So maybe because they move up right away to the senior category that, they don't look at coming to the SuperNationals because they're so focused on the OK program over there. So I don't know if that's part of the reason or not, but I think that what we're missing, I think, right now in this category is some of the big international junior stars coming over to racing in this category. Even look at just American drivers who are racing over there. There's no Vivek Canthan, there's no Jack Iliff coming to race the SuperNationals. So maybe they just race so much over there that it's out of the budget to come back to the USA and to race the SuperNats.
I think you're bang on with the age shift too. Some of these drivers, are already coming up into the senior categories when they could be still in their last year of junior. That's what we saw with the guys like George Russell and some of those guys that had come over to run here as well. But bottom line is, this is going to be another fantastic group of drivers in this category. 46 strong in this class. All right, let's go from KA or X30 Junior up into the KA100 Senior class. When we get back after this quick break, we will again jump into KA100 Senior, 76 strong. Welcome back to this second installment of our OutLap Preview Podcast for next week's Superkarts USA SuperNationals. Rob, David, and Nate here for you as we get rolling into things. 2 classes down, 3 still to come. Essentially, the 3 big dogs left to go. KA100 Senior will be presented by RLV at this year's SuperNationals. 76 drivers. We mentioned Europeans coming over. We saw a lot of that last year. Thomas Stolz-Hermandis was able to come through and walk away with a pretty impressive win. The Latvian scoring the victory last year. He was very strong all weekend long. Brandon Lemke, a driver who was able to come back and get a victory that he needed. Paulie Massimino, a winner. And, of course, Stephen Barros was the winner of the very first year of the KA100 Senior category back in 2018 on a kart he had, driven all year long. Was it a used kart he bought? I can't remember. It was a fantastic story for Stephen Barros to come out and get that win. Championship-wise on the season, we saw a really great battle between Aiden Levy and Colin Lloyd throughout the entire 6 rounds of the Pro Tour. Levy ended up grabbing that win in the championship, but then from there went back to school. So hasn't been doing a lot of racing. Henry Wheeler third, Harley Keeble, the Sodi kart driver, starting late. He ended up in the 4th spot, and Josh Campbell rounding out the top 5. David, lots of notes for this category in terms of drivers from out of the country, past winners. Roll out some notes for us here.
Let's start with the big number. We'll go from the big all the way down. 32 drivers with no SuperNationals experience. So that's kind of just going through some of the past results. And you look at a field of 76, nearly half have never raced at the SuperNationals.
Wow.
Or I don't have results for them at the SuperNationals. So that's a kind of a big number to look at. We do have 13 drivers from outside the United States, 9 representing 9 different countries in the field. 9 drivers are graduating from the junior class last year into the senior category this year. So very similar to what we saw in X30 Junior as well. So lower number. I thought it would be more than that, but possibly that's just how the numbers fall. 4 different SuperNational winners are in this field, including 2 former winners in the KA100 Senior category. That includes Brandon Lemke and Paulie Massimino. So 2019 and 2021 winner, both in the field. Ironically, Lemke was the provisional winner when Massimino actually took the victory. And then Lemke was able to score the victory the last time we were at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So those are 2 kind of interesting stories to follow as we head to the SuperNationals this year.
Agreed. Let's have a look at our predictions right now. Then we'll have a look at the rest of the entry. David, of course, kicking everybody's ass last year, so he once again will lead it off.
It's just, it wasn't I kicked everybody's ass. It was just I had just little advantages here and there, including this category. I actually selected the 3rd place finisher correctly, which was, I believe, Frankie Mossman in 3rd. So I had 2 drivers in the top 5, including selecting the 3rd place finisher correctly. So that gave me 5 points to Rob's 2. And while Nate only had 1 driver in the top 5. So you guys need to improve on that.
We will this year. We're coming for
All right,
Cole.
Well, this is the bar that is set. This is my predictions coming in to this event. And I'm going with the flow, or however you say that color.
It's fluorescent, so flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is
choose the flow.
Choose the flow with Oliver Hodgson. The British driver was really good in this category last year. Probably had the ability to win. It just kind of fell out of his hands there in the closing stages of the race. He ended up finishing in the 5th spot. He's just really good in the 100cc stuff. There's just something about it. We have those drivers like the Lamkeys and those who came up through the ranks in the 100cc stuff. They just love it. And so I decided to put Hodgson first, Brandon Lemke 2nd, Paulie Massimino 3rd. Those, I think, Lemke and Massimino, they are the most experienced drivers in this field in 100cc racing. I see no reason why not to pick these 2 into the top 5. Lemke, again, former winner, ended up finishing. Oh, I got my roster all messed up, so I'll get to that later. But Lemke, again, former winner, Massimino, former winner. I think these 3 drivers are kind of they're going to take charge and kind of show the muscle, be the experienced drivers that they are. There's no doubting the talent that is in Ernesto Rivera, the driver from Mexico. Just literally dominated the junior ranks all season long and is now moving up into the senior division for the end of the season. There's no doubt the talent's there. I think he's going to be fast. I think he has the ability to even put it in at the top of the timesheets in qualifying. But again, racecraft, I think experience at the SuperNationals takes you a little bit further. And so he's going to come up short in trying to get that victory and kind of get a repeat victory off his X30 Junior victory last year. Finishing in the 5th spot, Alex Stanfield. The Texan has been really good in this category. Is a champion last year. Ran a limited schedule this year, but every race he's gone to, he's been fast. Stanfield is finished in the 6th spot last year. So I have him actually finishing on the podium this year. And so that is my top 5.
David Cole rolling it out. Pretty impressive. I like it. Obviously, obviously strong names, right? A couple of guys that have won the race before, guys that have won big races. It's a stack. This is a VIP all-star show right there with 5 drivers. I've got a couple of the same drivers. Let's have a look at mine now, David. Let's see how things shake down. You and I both choosing the flow. Comp cart on top. I picked Oliver Hodgson as well. There's just
You couldn't let me have the glory. You had to steal it.
Did you not steal the glory from both Nate and I last year? Are you hogging the glory?
Oh, good point.
Yes, exactly. I got Oliver Hodgson up top as well. It was tough for me. There's a couple of guys in the hunt here. You can see that we have a couple of the same guys, Hodgson, Rivera, and Stanfield. Harley Keeble, he's just got such a fire in his belly, and you watch him on the racetrack, and he hangs it all out there. He races like he's still in Europe, running in Europe, and I think that takes some people have a point of contention with that. He drives hard and is aggressive. And if there's a gap, he'll go for it, especially. And I didn't pick this, obviously, knowing the racetrack. The way this racetrack is going to be, aggression could be one of the things that separates the front from the back. So I put Harley Keeble in second, Ernesto Rivera. I feel the same way. Again, a driver with blinding speed, but still learning the senior ranks. And remember, he started the season, did the season in junior, and then late in the run did at the U.S. Trophy final for Rotax, making the move to senior. So learning what it's like to race in senior and running at senior in the SuperNats is definitely different than running in junior. Last year, Rivera was kind of able to pull away from Gaffera and kind of run around by himself for the main event. So really didn't have to get his elbows up for a race win. So that's the other part of it. Frankie Mossman's just been really good. And I know that Frankie's getting ready to kind of cap off his karting career and focus more on what he's doing in the USF Pro Championships. But man, anytime you roll Frankie out at the SuperNats, he's going to be a guy up front. So I'm thinking he's going to get to the top 5. You mentioned that he had a good run last year, David, as well. Did Frankie Mossman? We'll see whether or not.
Finished third last year.
Exactly. So will that happen again for him? Is a good possibility, right? That he'll be in the hunt. And then, of course, I'll just echo your statements on Stanfield. Hasn't raced as much, did a little bit of Miata racing, I think, as well this year. But anytime he rolls out, especially in a KA, you've got to put your money, some of your money at least, spread some around on Alex Stanfield, because he can win wherever he goes. He's just become that kind of driver right now. So there's my 5: Hodgson, Keeble, Rivera, Mossman, and Stanfield.
Can I make a quick note?
Of course you can.
Had I seen this track layout, I probably would have picked Keeble.
See? Yep. There you go.
All right, Nate. Let's see who your top 5 are.
So I'm going to take both of your guys' 5th picks, move them up to the top spot. Alex Stanfield was very impressive last season, along with Christian Miles, who I have down in 5th, but we'll get to them. Those two are very quick last year. Of course, both of them not really doing full campaigns, doing more focused on car stuff, with Alex more focused on the Miatas, Christian doing a lot of dirt racing. But like we said, Alex is just so quick whenever he gets in a kart, whether it's at USPKS or the Texas Sprint Racing Series this season. He was very, very impressive. Speaking of that, the Brit Harley Keeble in second again. With this track layout, I think with his European driving style and how aggressive he is, he should be up there. Very, very quick on 1-lap pace as well. So on a track where you're going to have to defend quite a lot, having a good qualifying session that Keeble might and probably will be able to do will be very much key. Oliver Hodgson, taking him down a couple steps. He's obviously incredibly talented and maybe didn't have the luck he wanted last year at the SuperNationals, especially in the X30 Senior. Still think he's going to be quick and a contender. Have him 3rd. Brandon Lemke was the last driver to win KA100 Senior when we went to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I have him 4th. And then Christian Miles, again, one of the drivers who hasn't done a full campaign in karting this season, but who is still very, very talented behind the wheel. I have wrapping off my podium.
Yeah. So Nate's, I like it. Taking a swing for the fences there. I don't think it's a big swing either. I mentioned that you have to put some money on Alex there. I think, again, guys, it looks to me, counting them up, I think we're again at 8 different drivers that we've picked.
His wild card is Christian Miles, because I don't have any of the other 4. You have some of the other 4 as well.
Yeah.
So going back to us again, Miles is a great selection because he's certainly talented. He was leading the USPKS championship at one point this year, and then decided to step away from karting. Coming back, he's going to race with Race Lab and TB Kart. So that's the only question I have. How quick can he come to grasp with the different kart? Obviously, you put him in anything, dirt car and karts, he's going to find a way to be fast. So I don't doubt that. Again, just, that's one of the reasons why I kept him off my top 5, or maybe because I want him to finish in the top 5 and not give him the bad mojo. So, so
David,
pinky up for Christian Miles.
Race Lab's got a couple of good drivers coming over from Europe as well, right? In Ariel Elkin and Ellie. What's Ellie's last name?
Goldstein.
Goldstein. So there's going to be a couple of really good guys that know that product with him. So which I think I'm going to lay that towards the side of Christian. He's got some guys with him that are going to help that TV kart product.
Yeah, that'll certainly help. So if he can get up to pace real quick and understand what the kart's doing, and then once the rubber goes down, what to do with it, and he's got the knowledge there to be able to do it, hopefully that'll help move him and keep him up towards the front. Stanfield to win it, again, that's a good pick. That could easily happen. I'm just upset that you pick Hodgson as well. Should have went somebody else now, but it is what it is. But there's a lot of other drivers. I mean, again, this is a big field. A lot of other drivers that have the ability. Let's talk about some rookies, because we did talk about Ernesto Rivera. He's coming in as a rookie. You got Jesus Vasquez Jr., senior rookie. He's done really well, racing, winning in Texas, winning in California, winning pretty much wherever he's gone. So he could be one of the quick ones to watch. Privateer Eli Warren. He finished, he's making his SuperNats debut, but he's been a top 5 contender USPKS all season long. Fernando Lequi, he's done some senior racing already, if I remember correctly. But he was a quick junior driver, but also has already done some senior racing.
Yeah, I remember you weren't there, David, but he was at the Winter Nationals. Fernando Luque, we think it's Luque. He was the one that was right in the middle of scrap with everybody up front, and pissed a bunch of people off. But it was some aggressive racing for sure. But yeah, there's a bunch of other dudes like Race Liberante. Here we didn't mention. First off, we didn't mention Colin Lloyd. We didn't mention Aiden Levy. First and second place in points. You and I, none of us picked them because, to be honest, I think Levy was 10th last year. This I think this could be the first ever SuperNats race for Colin Lloyd, right? You mentioned 32 drivers with no experience.
Yeah, I think that obviously has part of the situation in terms of top 5. Levy, 10th place finish last year, respectable. As you said, he's been focusing on school. I don't think that's going to deter how he performs. I think it might take a little bit to get back up to speed, but he was there at USPKS competition at his Trackhouse Motorplex. So I don't think that'll be a big issue. But again, a lot of different drivers. Finishing up my junior drivers, Caleb Gaffera. He's moved into the senior ranks. He was one of the top junior drivers last year, was in the fight for both KA Junior and X30 Junior. Just didn't come out on top the way he wanted to. But he's going to be one of those drivers that'll be double dipping again, this time in the senior ranks. And then Leonardo Escorpioni moving into the senior ranks as well. He actually finished second in KA100 Junior last year. So that's some drivers, junior or rookie drivers to watch.
And some of the guys that we saw, I think, last year just do well, who've been doing more racing, not a lot of racing, but enough at least. Chase Hand was a driver last year, finished 9th, right? So I think he could probably be there. And Aiden Rudolph was 12th last year. He's been having some good runs. Aiden has, as he continues to get older. We saw him start when he was a micro driver, working his way all the way up here. How about this one, Dave? You want to throw a little bit of something out for TJ Cohen?
Yeah, he should be running Masters.
He should be running Masters. 32 years of age.
Yeah, the now 2-time dad, making his way back to the SuperNationals. So he's going to be at the tables at night and on the racetrack in the morning, or not really in the morning, and probably they are in the morning session. That's correct. So yeah, good to see TJ back. They'll be running on the best kart with AMV Factory Race Team. So that'll be a story to kind of see this new kart coming over to the United States. That'll be interesting. You did mention Race Liberante. He's actually racing because of his victory at the Rock Island Grand Prix. Corey Simpson is one of the supporters of Rock Island Grand Prix, was trying to do it for the King of the Streets. It didn't work out. So he decided to award not only Race Liberante, but also Chase Jones, the King of the Rock winner, free entry into the SuperNationals this year. So both Chase Jones, he's not on the entry list yet, but will be come trackside. So that's been worked out. So Chase Jones and Race Liberante racing under the MPG Motorsports Race Factory tent in the KA100 Senior category.
Let's just throw a couple more names out. Nate, you tell me if I'm missing anybody. Henry Wheeler's been a driver to watch. Peyton Phillips, as we know, won the championship in the Winter Series. James Overbeck, who's been one of the top drivers running in the 4-cycle categories, as well as a lot of 2-cycle stuff. He's running with Brandon Charsacrack Racing. Who else do I scroll up and see here that could be? Another one. And listen, I kind of looked at this one here because there's been so much momentum as of late. But what about Dalton Haynes? I kind of looked at Dalton a little bit. I'm like, man, this kid really is kind of riding the wave right now. He's going to be part of the Rotax Team USA operation in December. What do you think about Dalton Haynes? Where's he going to end up?
Yeah, he's
highlighted
been
him.
one of the ones to watch. He's definitely been one of the watch. I highlighted him. He was, I don't know. He either is one of the quickest guys in the field or has absolutely no luck whatsoever during a weekend. So that was kind of the deciding factor. A couple others that I've highlighted that I don't know if we've talked about. Blake Nash on Nash Motorsports. He's been quick and was quick at Rock Vegas, along with Vinny Miskelez, who had a kind of quiet season at USPKS and SCUSA, but ultimately got some pretty decent results there. He could do that again. And I don't know if we've talked about Paulie Massimino, who's just a threat in whatever cart, no matter what engine package you put on him for Mike Doty Racing, Brandon Jarsacrack Racing. He definitely, did you pick him, David?
I picked him third. Yeah.
I picked him third. So. We've just talked about so many drivers in this field that it's just hard to keep track of, but obviously
here's another one too. Is Alexander Kardashian. He's been in the top 15 the last 2 years. 15th 2 years ago, 8th last year. So Kardashian is a guy right out of your home Route 66 there, Nate. He could be the guy to be in the top 10 as well.
He difficult for him because all throughout Route 66 they were struggling with engine issues, and with him focusing on work and school right now, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to get within that top 5, even top 10 this year.
Plus, he's a Purdue guy.
Wow.
Go Blue. I gotta say it because we're facing Purdue this weekend, so I gotta say it.
Okay, so here's just a run through.
No, let me do one. I got one more name. I don't think we said it, and he's been searching for a win over the last 2 years anywhere he's gone, and he just hasn't been able to get it. So this would be an amazing story to see Connor Ferris come out and win this race.
Okay.
So that's one driver to watch, because kind of like Nate said, he's one of those drivers that has been really fast everywhere he goes, but there's always that bad luck. Something happens and just kind of keeps him away. He was close at USPKS at the finale. So that could be another driver we see picking up victory and being one of the winners at SuperNationals.
This is how crazy this is. I'm gonna give you these names. I'm just gonna rattle off a couple of names that are left that I'm seeing right now, who are guys that we watched up front all the time, and we haven't talked about them yet. And that's how tough this is. Mick Gabriel, Diego Conteca, Nate Cicero, Brandon Carr, Josh Campbell, Oliver Calvo, John Burke, Finnegan Bailiff. All those drivers we haven't talked about, and they could easily all be in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, you're at 76 drivers. We talked about Junior being the biggest field. I think this is probably more competitive than that category. I would easily say that, because again, you have the old guys like TJ Coyen, so the age range is a lot wider, but it allows for a lot more competitive drivers in the field because you're not restricted by the age thing. So, but yeah, I mean, I have nearly half the field marked up as possible contenders.
Yeah. I know. That's it, right? Crazy. All right, folks, back to another break. When we come back, we're time to go into the two headline categories. We'll go X30 Senior after this break. So back once again here on the OutLap episode, number 65, I think we're at right now?
Yes.
Yeah, episode 65 of our OutLap Preview Podcast, the second of 2 installments here for this year's SuperNationals. We're going now into the X30 Senior category, brought to you by Rawlson Performance Group. 63 drivers. This one is absolutely stacked. Last year was a big win for Evan Gilterre for Trinity Karting Group. I think he went on to win the French F4 championship as well. So big stuff happening for Gilterre over in Europe. But before that, the breakthrough victory, of course, in 2021 for Ryan Norberg, finally getting that win that had eluded him after so many championships. Zachary Clayman DeMello coming out with a big win after contact between Danny Carroll and Jack Crawford, I think, on the final lap in that class. He was able to come away with the win there in 2019. Ben Cooper led a strong RPG squad to the win in 2018. Josh Carr, the Aussie, Jake Craig, and Louis Pagano, winners of X30 Senior. Then you go back again to the tag senior days. Gabby Chavez, a driver who was a winner back in the day, coming out of a Star Mazda championship. Andre Nicastro, just trying to go further back. Joel Miller, Daniel Morad, man. Chris Freckleton was a winner back in the day here when it was tagged.
He was the inaugural winner.
The inaugural winner, yep. We had some weird engines back in the day when it was tagged, that's for sure. A little shout out to the Beeland engine. That was fun to watch. But David, let's give us some notes on this one, because this is going to be a wild battle for sure in X30 Senior.
I didn't write it down, but we've had 19 different winners in this category. We've never had a repeat winner. So as much as we talked about the junior program, this one's just as what's the word I'm looking for?
Competitive.
Yeah, competitive.
It just shows
diverse
and how hard it is to win the Super.
How hard it is to win the SuperNationals. That's exactly it. And there's so many different countries. You talk about U.S., South Africa, Canada, Italy, Brazil, Colombia, Australia, Italy. I already said that. And France last year. So a number of different countries as well represented as former winners. So
Brazil, of course, the closest finish we've had.
That was that was one of the wild ones. That was in part of our countdown last year,
wasn't it? Yeah.
From SuperNationals 14, Andre Nicastro and the Dingo David Serra finishing 1,000ths of a second separated at the line. So, so speaking of no repeat winners, we have one driver with the ability this year to do that. That is our 2021 winner, Ryan Norberg. He is the only former X30 Senior winner in the field. We have 6 former SuperNationals winners in the field. So 5 other drivers who have won other categories at the SuperNationals. We have 12 different countries represented by 29 drivers outside the United States. 4 drivers from X30 Junior who raced last year are racing X30 Senior this year. And we've talked about a couple of them already. So we'll probably get it. We'll see maybe 1 or 2 in our predictions as well. And then again, double duty. We have both drivers running X30 Senior and KA100 Senior, which ironically, this will be the last year we see that, because I would assume the rule of only racing X30 Pro and KA100 Senior separate will go into the SuperNationals as well by the new rule for 2024 for Superkarts USA. So this might be the last year we see drivers doing double duty in these 2 categories, but we have 20 of them going double dipping.
And hold on, am I actually going first here?
Well, the only reason I put you first is because none of us scored points in this category last year.
None of us did?
None of us. We had 0 top 5.
We suck.
If you see your name on this list,
sorry.
Sorry.
As a Canadian, I say sorry. Oh my God.
So I figured you haven't had one, right? You weren't first in any of these.
That's a dubious honor. I thought I at least got 1 point. None of us got that. Isn't that bad?
I mean, you raced last year, so I guess you have honors for that.
I don't think
in this class.
Listen, to be honest, Evan Gilterre, I don't think we really any of us figured Gilterre was going to storm his way to the top 5 and then to get the win, right?
No.
No.
But that's what makes SuperNationals so great. That's why we are trackside watching. That's why we're streaming our live call. That's why everybody travels to SuperNationals just to watch and see what happens.
True enough. All right. Well, I'll get things underway, I guess. Let's do it here with the 63 strong X30 Senior category brought to you by Rawlson Performance Group. All right. My pick of Harley Keeble plays really well to this racetrack.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Listen, one of the great stories I think of 2023 has been the arrival of Sodi Racing USA. For those of you who have been around the SuperNationals for many years, there was always a really strong Sodi Kart contingent. Whether it was Anthony Abbas or Abbas Lammers or a number of the drivers who ran Sodi machinery, it's been always great to have them here. And to have this new program really focusing and bringing that really global brand back to the U.S., I think has been a big part for the industry. So I go Harley Keeble. I was really wondering whether or not Ryan Norberg, I was going back and forth with Ryan Norberg being the guy that could kind of step up and make things happen. So I went Keeble just because of the way I just figured the last lap's going to be crazy. This is again before seeing the grid. So I'm okay with that right now. Mateus Morgado always seems to step up in big races. Let's be real. He's a former world champion. He also was able to get the victory at Rock Vegas, which helped me, make sure he stayed strongly into the top 5. Ariel Elkin, I think he was so impressive last year. And I just think coming back for another year here, he's been doing some car racing this year too. So I'm not sure exactly how much kart racing he's been doing. So maybe it could be a bit of a wild card, but he was strong here last year with Race Lab on the TB kart. So I think Elkin will still be one of those guys that gets home to the top 5. And then Austin Garrison for me, I don't want to call him a wild card, although he doesn't race on a regular basis, does what he can. The guy's an unbelievable talent, can win at the big races. So he's kind of my wild card to a certain extent. I just think Garrison's going to come out of the gate and be an absolute bullet all weekend long. There you go.
Yeah, I love the Keeble pick. Now looking at the racetrack, I already said that in KA100 Senior. So I like that. So you're looking at 3 essentially 3 international drivers, 2 from the United States. So
Yep.
that's a pretty good mix.
I like it.
Nate, any notes on his?
Strong, really strong. It's the senior categories that you have so much experience in that you can go any which way with about 20 or so different drivers. And I think I have a little bit of a different direction that I'm going with mine, but still a really solid pick from what we saw on North American soil.
5 different chassis too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So I think this is going to be the one category where we're completely different.
Well, hopefully,
So
listen. If we're all different, at least one of us will score a point.
Yeah. Well, I have actually 2 of your top 5, so it's not completely different, but I have a name that you don't have in there winning it, and here it is. Dmitry Mateev. I think Kart Republic, it's been strong. We've seen Joe Turney winning here in the United States. Obviously, unfortunately, we're not going to have Joe Turney here because of the incident that happened at the World Championship, but I think Kart Republic's going to come in and just show well as they have and did last year with Gilles. So I have Dimitri taking the victory. I think he's going to be the story of the SuperNationals, being able to dominate this field, coming in with no SuperNationals experience whatsoever. So that's the only question mark I have in this. So it's making this selection. He's never been to the SuperNationals. So because we've seen that before, where we predicted one of the stars in Europe to come over. I'm trying to remember who it was. And I thought he was going to just come in and dominate, and just was a complete flop because the SuperNationals, again, something different, and they weren't quite ready for it. So I put him at number 1 to be how many different winners did I say?
19, 18?
19. So it'll be the 20th different winner. I have Ryan Norberg coming up just short. Again, he's been the class of the field here in the United States next to Joe Turney. They're obviously 1-2 in our EKN driver rankings presented by Skip Barber Racing School. Norberg might have the advantage now because no Joe Turney at the SuperNationals. I have him finishing second. And you already mentioned Austin Garrison. He's not a wild card. He's just a stout driver. I mean, this is a former SCUSA Pro Tour champion in the S2 category back in 2014.
People forget about that.
He finished 5th in S5 back in 2013, finished 2nd here in S2 back in 2014. So, and finished 9th in Pro Shifter category in 2021. So this guy's good. Every time he's in the kart, he and Norberg were pretty much even throughout the second half of the season. And then you throw in Joe Turney in there as well too. So I have Austin Garrison finishing in the 3rd spot. I put Eli Goldstein up there in the 4th spot. Again, a new driver to the SuperNationals, but I think he has the ability to be fast. Race Lab, TB Kart, they brought over a number of different drivers to help build that brand back up. And I think he's going to be able to do that. We've seen it at the SCUSA Winter Series. We've seen it at the Winter Nationals as well too, and other events as well. So I don't see why not. And then I put Harley Keeble 5th. Again, if I would have seen the racetrack before we made the predictions, possibly maybe put him number 1. But I like the story. Again, he's been over here helping Sodi Racing USA build their brand over here. And he's certainly done that with the number of victories that he's been able to earn. But he's also gaining the respect and getting the confidence of those drivers under the tent and under the brand as well. So it's been a really good story for him. I have him finishing in the 5th spot.
Yeah, David, so you're kind of rolling the dice, looking at is Mateev going to be Matveev rather going to be the new Evan Gilter? Is this the guy that we kind of didn't look at? I might be a year late picking a Kart Republic to win. So I don't remember who I picked last year, but yeah. I'm trying to dive in. I didn't pick that one up enough to see what happens. So yeah, could be a big pick for David. It could be, but I don't know. It depends on what Nate's picked. That could be. This is true. So let's look at his. All right.
Woo. So, bit out of left field, Kali Akin, the Anglo-Jamaican driver who is 2023 X30 Senior World Champion and European Champion, Vice Champion in X30, on the English tour. I am not letting another European come under my nose like Gilles did to us last year. So I've done my research this year. Have England 1-2 on the podium for me. Atkins has seemed really impressive in his 2023 campaign, so I have him there. Oliver Hodgson was very quick last year, unfortunately retiring in the final corner, about past the halfway point in the race last year. But I think he's been a step up in 2023, so I think we'll see him towards the top half of the podium. Ryan Norberg hasn't had his level of dominance that we saw in 2022 this season, but he's still one of the quickest drivers and was on pace with Joe Turney, who can fight with the world's best, and we're seeing the world's best here. So I have him third. Elkin finished third last year. I think him and TB Kart, if I'm not mistaken, will be pretty consistent and pretty up there in X30 Senior. And then Ernesto Rivera can't have a really, really good run this SuperNationals. He's been very impressive in his senior debuts in the past couple of weekends. He's just been competitive and up there with some of the most experienced X30 and senior drivers we've seen in the past few years, and dicing with them. So I don't see why we can't see two RPG Cosmics on the podium for X30 Senior.
I like this. You boys did some research, which I like. Way to go, Nate. I'm like, as we're talking, I'm kind of deep diving on Kahali's Instagram thing here right now. I'm like, I didn't pick this up at all. Good for you.
Yeah, no, he won at the Miami Warrior final, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Euro Series as well over Eduardo Ludovico, Avila, who we've seen here before, right? Eduardo Villa ran for TB Kart, I think TB Kart at one point. So yeah, there's impressive. I like it.
Yeah, no, that was one. I had him as again, looking at the international drivers, he was one that I put down. Again, I don't know. I didn't even look at what happened at the Warrior final race. So I like Nate's move. It's a great selection and a great top five, because I could, I already have one of them in mind, but I could easily put the rest in.
Yeah, that's solid. Good stuff, guys. So, yeah.
Woo!
Somebody's going to get a point.
Somebody's going to get a point.
Somebody's going to get a point this year, I think. That's the whole, I wanted to go back to see how many guys.
Okay, here, we'll go you first. So we'll look back at you.
I've already got mine locked down.
I'm just looking at it. So Morgado, I think you're the only one who's got Morgado.
There you go.
So that's that's your outlier. Mativ, I'll just say Dimitri. I don't know how to say his last name. Because I'm guessing one V is silent, right? Mativ. That's how I would say it. We'll ask him. I think I'm the only one with Goldstein.
You're the only one with Goldstein, yeah.
And Mativ or Dimitri. So I have two that are different. And then he's got the Atkins one that's different.
Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Or did you have Hodgson? You had Hodgson,
7, 8. He had Hodgson as well, because he's won.
Okay, so he's got two different ones as well. So Nate and myself probably have the ability to win this class based on that when you look at the numbers. But yeah, that's pretty wild. I like this.
And again, I think we're looking at eight drivers. We've all split 8 drivers.
It should be 9 or 10. Right?
Atkins, Elkin, Garrison, Goldstein, Keeble. That's 5. Mativ 6. Morgado and Norberg. Who am I missing?
Well, I have. You put Dimitri in there, right?
Yeah.
And Goldstein?
Yep.
So that's 2. Morgado's 3.
Yeah, I think we're at 8.
Atkins, and then you had 4. Sorry, you're right.
8.
All right.
So we're locked into the 8 number, but
9. Yeah, 9.
Who's the 9th? Did I not put Garrison?
Hodgson. Yeah, because neither of us have Hodgson. There you go.
Where is he? Oh, there he is.
He's got 2 different ones than what any of us we have. I have 2 different ones than what any of you have, and you have 1 different. So 5 plus 5 would be, or 5 plus 4 is
going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting for sure. All right. Well, listen, let's come out of this here and do we look through and find, like, again, so we have 9 drivers we've all picked. And again, like we said, like how many, there's just so many guys that we didn't look at, right? That could easily be drivers who could be the ones winning on the weekend.
Well, let's talk about double duty. You got Chase Hand, Dalton Haynes, Christian Miles, Frankie Mossman, Caleb Gaffera, Jesus Vasquez Jr., they're all double dipping. Max Taylor is one of the rookies coming in.
Yeah.
So he could be one to watch. You already said his name in KA100 Senior. We haven't said it yet here. Diego Canteca. He finished second in 2021. Didn't race SuperNationals last year, so he obviously has the ability to win here.
I think probably the biggest one we haven't talked about yet, to be honest, would probably be Alessandro Di Tullio. Right?
Yeah, he's third in our EKN driver rankings.
Yeah, right.
Right now, he's been consistent. I think that's the one thing that about him. He's been consistently in the top 10 all season long. Hasn't really had those big podium finishes to be able to put him up further and closer to what like Turney and Norberg have been able to do across the board. So, if this would be a breakout performance, obviously finishing sixth last year, but I think landing on the podium would help solidify his season to be like, hey, I was one of the top drivers all season long. I finished on the podium at the SuperNationals. Boom. That's my CV for the year. Yeah,
and a couple other ones I think, of course, you got to talk about potential top 10, top 5 drivers. Diego Ramos being one. We talked about Ernesto Rivera. Again, we talked about Ernesto being a junior for the majority of the season. He just jumped into senior, so he's going to be up against the big boys in this one here for sure, for him coming into the category. Another one we mentioned Dalton Haynes already. Who else did I want to bring up? Here's the one. We didn't talk about Paulie Massimino. Obviously, Paulie, anytime he rolls out, can be a driver up front. I think same thing with Blake Nash, with Frankie Mossman. But the one I thought was really cool. So we lose the X30 Master class, right, guys? So normally, I can't run X30 Master like Kip Foster. I'll run KA Master. That would be a great idea. Thomas Grice, the Aussie, who last year wins X30 Masters, decides, no, I'm going to go run against the seniors. I'll go senior racing. So he'll be a guy I want to watch throughout the weekend, right? Grice, 31 years of age. So it's not like he's 40 or 50, but still running against the kids that are, 14, 15, 16. This is going to be, I think, pretty impressive for him.
Yeah, that was the last name I was going to bring up. So he's actually one of the 5 former winners in the field. 6 former winners in the field. So who am I missing? So Grice, Norberg. Hold on. Oh, I know who I forgot. Thomas Naveau, the Canadian.
Yeah, Mini.
Yeah, won Mini back in 2016.
Yeah.
Rivera.
Massimino.
I'm missing one. Keep talking. I'll try.
I scrolled through too. Guys that have won before.
See, this is why I write stuff down. I haven't done the preview yet for it, so that's why I haven't written it down. I kind of was just going off, looking at it and guessing.
I was going to say Brandon Carr, but I don't think Brandon ever won, did he?
Brandon didn't win, no. I was highlighting him last time. Now I forgot to do that.
Pretty good, Dave.
All right. So we got Rivera, right? We got Norberg. We got Naveau.
3.
3.
Naveau.
Mossman. Massimino.
4. Grice 5.
So maybe I just miscounted.
We'll look forward to the preview. You've been kicking ass in those previews.
Yeah, the preview, that'll be up on Saturday. So this show will probably be, I think I'm going to wait till do it Sunday night. Even though we're taping it here on a Thursday, I think we're going to wait to publish on Sunday, let all the previews come out, and then publish this video. We couldn't publish the video because you're off having fun in Florida, correct?
I'm working in Florida the entire day, every day. So one thing I do want to bring up, I'm looking forward to the day that David comes out of the old schoolness and stops saying that we're taping. We're recording.
We're taping. If you can't see it behind the camera, but it's on reel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Nate's like, what is this guy talking about?
Come on.
There's a different term for reels nowadays too, so that even that's
good.
Yeah,
good
Dave,
point.
so you're not even there.
Oh man, look at me. I'm getting hosed bad. It's all because I picked first in every single one except this category, right?
So I just started following Mative and Atkins. There you go. These boys just got another follower for you guys making a pick, so I'm gonna follow them.
I already followed them as I was going through the entry list.
Apparently you did. Yes, I did not. All right, this will be the last break, folks. We come back. We'll jump into Pro Shifter. We'll wrap up this edition of the OutLap. Don't go anywhere. More to come. All right, last couple of laps here of this OutLap podcast here. Our second of the previews leading into this year's Superkarts USA SuperNationals, the 26th edition of the event, out this year at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and what looks to be a very interesting racetrack. Nothing we've seen in the 25 previous years of this event. There have been some wild tracks, Sam Boyd Stadium being one of them, of course, but this is going to be a very interesting layout for sure. We're rolling now again here into Pro Shifter, the class presented at the SuperNationals by PSL Karting, longtime supporters of Superkarts USA. 71 drivers in Pro Shifter. Looking forward to the last chance qualifier for this one for sure. It's going to be a battle. Again, the key thing, this is a really headline shifter category has been around from the very beginning. If you're new to Superkarts USA, I've even just been around for the last handful of years. Superkarts USA started as a shifter kart only program. In those early years of the SuperNationals, it was nothing but shifter karts. In fact, maybe 5 classes, I think, or 5 or 6 classes at the first couple of races. This started as Formula S1. That was the pro category. Then it turned into Super Pro. That was kind of an evolution of S1 drivers coming regionally. It was Super Pro for a number of years. Then it became essentially KZ. Then we had the KZ and S1. Then we had Pro Shifter. A couple of different, and then the split, of course, with Pro Shifter and KZ. And now it's all back into one big group, hence 71 drivers all told. Full KZ, unlike Master Shifter we talked about in the opening podcast, which runs both the KZ and the IAME SSC 175. This is a straight-up KZ category. We've had some amazing winners over the last couple of years. Pedro Hiltbrand won last year, the Spaniard, scoring in 2022. Matteo Vajana won the year before, the Italian. Danny Formal, big victory for him back in 2019. Leonardo Lorandi scored the win in 2018. And Paolo De Canto, top CRG driver at the time for Italy in 2017. David, this is one we talked to yesterday, Master Shifter, about Marian Kremers. About Jordan Musser not having won one of these races yet. Marian Kremers is a driver on the outside looking in. He wants to win this one big time right now.
Yeah, this is the one. I mean, he's one of the 3 world champions that we have for gearbox racing in the field. One a newer one and one a older one in the field. But Kremers has been coming to the SuperNationals now for the last few years with this as his target. Finishing runner-up twice. I'm lost on my sheet right now. Finishing second 3 times in a row, and then finishing 6th last year. So not the performance he wanted last year for sure. Obviously, with Pedro Hiltbrand taking the victory, it was a big win for the team. But unfortunately, he wanted to be the one winning for the team and wasn't. So we'll see kind of how his mindset is coming into this year's event. Obviously, it's still the race he wants to win, but hasn't been that dominant force. Comes in as the Pro Tour champion for a 2nd straight year on SCUSA competition, but this is the one he wants on his CV.
In the Pro Tour points, Kyle Wick, 1 point back in second. Jacob Gulick was third. Billy Musgrave and AJ Myers rounding out the top 5. But let's dive right into predictions. And we've got Nate line. Did Nate win last year?
So Nate actually had 2 points in this category. He picked 5th place correctly and had 1 top 5 finisher. So it was Jake French and his retirement/not retirement right. Race last year. Probably maybe his last SuperNationals for a while at least. So he did get that right. I had Hildebrand in my top 5, but didn't pick him in the right position. And you had Jake French in the top 5, but didn't put him in the right position. So Nate has the honor of going first for our headline Pro Shifter category.
I like it.
So we're continuing the trend from X30 Senior of I'm not letting a European slip under my nose. And it's gone so far that I have a sheet in front of me of how to pronounce everyone's names.
Yes.
Paulo Ippolito, I'm taking for Kart Republic, the 2023 world champion, and he's a 2022 world champion as well. He's looked like he's had a really strong campaign in 2023 and obviously has the experience underneath him to what I think will be able to take him to a Super Nats victory. Danilo Albanese, also with Kart Republic, teamed up with Chedalar Racing, European champion in KZ in 2023, an Italian champion in KZ2 last season. He, along with his Kart Republic teammate, I think should be able to go 1-2 on the podium. Niels Trueger, I have in third, I believe he made one stateside appearance at Stars at Newcastle this season, but I don't think he's been stateside since then. KZ2 world champion for him, along with German Kart Cup champion in 2023 for the driver I have going third. Daniel Vazile, another Burrell ART driver who's had a pretty good season in the 2023 campaign. FIA karting vice champion for him, WSK Champions Cup winner, and 6-time Romanian karting champion for him. And then finally, Daniel Trevov in fifth. Believe he's on a Maranello kart, not 100% sure on that, but he's also had a pretty strong 2023 season in Europe. So apologies to any of the resident Americans or drivers who have had racing and pro shifter. I don't have the likes of Marion Kremers, AJ Myers, Kyle Wicks. They were all up there, but I really think the Europeans are going to come in strong this year.
I think your fourth place driver, Vaselli, I think he's on Italian Motors with the Italkart. So that's what they have him listed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think maybe he's been racing Burrell Art in Europe, but I think he's going to be under the Italian Motors USA tent on the Italkart, who is fielding a number of drivers. We'll get kind of more into those drivers a little bit later. But Rob, do you want to just go right into yours?
Yeah, I think we can go right into mine. I think it kind of rolls to the same thing. If you look at mine, very similar to what we saw with Nate. This has really been kind of the trend, I think, over the years in the SuperNationals is when the KZ category came, especially when we didn't run KZ here a lot back when we were more of the stock moto days, and then of course into the 175 days that we KZ wasn't our primary program. So when the guys came over to run KZ here, we were really up against it, right? We were lucky to get guys into the top 5 because the world champions have come over, the big manufacturers will bring their factory drivers over, and that's what we see. And that's why I think obviously Nate picking numerous drivers that different than mine. So I kind of went in a different angle than Nate. I start things out with Matteo Vajano, who won a couple of years ago. He's had a pretty strong year. Again, a driver that we know can run up front anytime, was on the podium, top 5 at the KZ World Championships this year. So I'm going to go Vajano as the win. Ippolito, the world champion, I'll go him P2. So, Nate and I are kind of in the same boat there. I think he'll be a driver who will be up front. Pedro Hiltbrand, another driver I expect to be there as well. Hiltbrand, of course, the driver coming off the win last year. So again, you've won here before. You can get it done again, especially when the big money's up for grabs. All these guys want to take that cash home. One of the drivers that caught me off guard last year, but was really impressive, was Marcus Kajak. And again, he was so good last year. I think he qualified 4th on the podium, finished 2nd for Italian Motors. And I'll say this, Italian Motors over the 26 years or 25 years of this event have always been good. Back to the Michael Valiente days, dominating in Formula C, to the David Yurkas and all these guys, the Jordi Voraths, and of late, they've always been strong. Andre Nicastro, we talked about him getting that win as well in that master category. So I think Italian Motors driver Marcus Kajak, I just want a wild card, but I think he'll be back to where he was last year. And I'll wrap it all up with Ricardo Longhi again. Longhi's a driver who has had success at this event. And I just think success in this particular event continues. It's the track, it's the atmosphere, it's the size of the event, how important it is. Back-to-back top 5 finishes for Longhi. I have no reason to think he's not going to be there again on SuperSunday. So again,
I think
much different guys.
And Kajak was on a Tony kart with Ryan Perry Motorsport last year, so he's moving to
okay.
So he's moving to Italian Motors USA on the Italkart. So yeah, he was the kind of the wild card because there was a lot of Borellas up front, a lot of the Charles Leclerc by Vajano and others and Hildebrand. So yeah, he was the kind of the oddball and with the Tony kart colors. But yeah, he's running with Italian Motors on the
which I think will be good because we saw how good Foray was last year. I just think the Italian Motors shifter kart's pretty strong, especially it's not going to be a super hot weekend, right? So I think a lot of times there are chances.
And they're always good on temporary circuits. Whenever the track is green, they are super 100%. Fast.
So there you go. That's my picks.
All right. So as the defending predictions winner. I will go last with my predictions, and we're all different. Not all different. But I am the only one to have an American driver in my top 5.
Yeah.
So, Lito, I put him as the reigning world champion. Got to put him at the top of the order. So, very much like what Nate said, I think Kart Republic's going to go 1-2 with Dinalo Albanese in the second spot. Again, he was the European champion. So to have the world champion and the European champion at the SuperNationals the same year, pretty amazing to have that. And I just think they're going to do what they've done over there and just kind of be 1-2 throughout the weekend. Emilian Denner, the Sodi kart driver from France coming over, I think that's going to be huge. I know that's kind of the one spot that Sodi Racing USA hasn't done here in the US is kind of push the shifter brand, but we all know how well the shifter brand does here at the SuperNationals, especially with Anthony Abbas, a 2-time former winner. So I put Denner into the third spot. I got AJ Myers fourth. I think there's no doubt about it that his program this year is probably the best it's ever been going into the SuperNationals. I think he's more prepared. He's working so close with the engine builder. He's so close with the chassis. Raced at the World Championships and had the pace. Certainly had the pace. Just didn't get the qualifying that he wanted, and it's so crucial there with how tight the racing is. So I think SuperNats is his home turf, and he's going to defend it. So that's kind of my guess on that. And again, you got to remember, you got to go back to 20. You remember the year, Rob? 2014
on the PCR.
And he wasn't allowed the license to race S1 that year. And so he raced KZ and was the top finishing American in that year in the KZ category, finishing 5th. So he's finished 5th. He's finished second, and then 5th 2 years ago. And then unfortunately recording a DNF last year. So I think he's going to bounce back because he's at the best that he's ever been going into the SuperNationals.
I like it. That would be awesome.
And then rounding up my top 5 is Niels Trager. Nate, I think you hit on him already. He was the KZ2 World Cup winner this year, racing on the Maranello kart. So I think, again, success over in Europe is going to translate over here. We've seen it before. We've seen it happen many times. And that's what makes up my top 5.
So 11 different drivers getting picked based on what I just checked out there. So 11 different guys. We got a lot of different ones in this one here.
Yes.
Yeah, you like that, Dave? That makes you happy?
I love it. I love the diversity. That just shows how deep these fields are when we have that many different drivers in the top 5 selection.
Let's jump over and maybe talk to a couple of drivers we didn't pick here. There are obviously a number that we would expect. We've got the one American and AJ Myers, but again, I know I struggled looking at not picking Kyle Wick coming off the win at the Rock Vegas event where he and Danny Formal went hammer and tong back and forth at each other. Kyle looks like he's in a really good place right now as well.
And let's be honest, he's at the best that he's ever been coming into this race weekend.
Yeah.
And he's beaten AJ Myers 2 out of the 2 times that he went over to the USBKS. And so I kind of struggled with that. That was where I went back and forth. I was like Myers, Wick. And I think Myers just is going to be a little bit better at the temporary circuit. I think, Wick struggled a little bit, but they were just implementing the new IAME engine last year at the SuperNationals. If you recall, last year's main event was wild, had a big, massive wreck, had red flag. I had no idea because I was on the racetrack. He had guys going over and changing engines because they had broken engines. Wick was one of them.
Formal was
the other.
They were in there too,
so that's another name as well too. Again, a 3-time winner. Can he elevate himself into being tied as a 4-time winner at the SuperNationals?
What about who else did I have down here? There was one. Oh, listen, we haven't talked about Marian Kremers yet. Literally, but I mean, as a pick, I selected a couple of PSL Burrell drivers, but I didn't go with Marian. Again, what's the mindset going into a weekend like this when all the European drivers are coming over, the factory drivers are coming over? Martin did that. He's a world champion. He's been racing here for the last couple of years, kind of getting settled in, working with PSL karting. What does it take for a driver, to get back to that world championship edge? It's not that you don't have that here in the U.S., but we talk about this, David, in a lot of our podcasts where the last US PKS debrief, right? They didn't have a lot of drivers in the KZ category. KZ drivers don't race that much over here in the US as much as they do and test and how they really commit to it in Europe. So again, for me, it'll be whether or not Kremers can dial it up another notch to battle it out against the guys that are under the tent with him.
Nate, pick out some names that we haven't mentioned. I know you kind of ran through a couple of the American drivers that were on our list, but who else are you looking at?
Yeah. One notable mention, Gavin Bailiff. Don't know how competitive he'll be because he's been kind of starting that shifter car program for himself and Trinity Karting Group, but he'll be at the SuperNationals. Giorgio Emmanuel Carrera for International Motorsports has been pretty strong here and there for his events. Haven't talked a lot about Danny Formal with Rolson Performance Group, with him getting one of the first shifter wins for OTK in a very long time in Orlando this season. Jacob Gulick, Kyle Wick's GFC karting teammate, has shown signs of being one of the best drivers in American karting when it comes to shifter karts throughout 2023. Just scrolling down, Billy Musgrave with Factory Karts, him getting that win in Orlando at SCUSA. A lot more difficult field than when we had in Orlando and SCUSA with all the world champions, but he'll definitely be in that top 10 fight. And then another PSL guy of Hunter Pickett, who had a pretty strong run in 2022. Should be interesting what the Burrell Art pilot has in store.
He was top 5 at the Rock Vegas event, so he's already got a temporary circuit race under his belt. And for Billy Musgrave on the factory kart, I love the story. I think we all love the American-made story and what they've been able to do. But he's been learning that KZ, right? He was so much into the stock Hondas, stock motos, and then was all in on the 175. Was the kind of the last guy to hold on to that 175 to the very end. But now it's moved to KZ, and the more he learns about that KZ, the better it's going to be. Anytime you come to the SuperNationals on a temp circuit, Musgrave's going to be good. So this could be a good opportunity for him to be the best he's been on the year, having learned that KZ.
Yeah, he's got to bounce back from 2 DNFs at the SuperNationals. So
Hannah Greenmeyer coming in as well, right? She was top 10 last year. Hannah was running with M Squared Karting. Been running the F4 car all year long, so I think she'll be one to watch. A Canadian driver, Josh Conker, running for the Vermont Kart Company on the Maranello. The Maranello crew is going to have a good group of drivers here. Across the board, Joe Rook, a bunch of drivers in Masters as well, of course, with Justin, Tiffany Kelly. So a number of drivers for Vermont Karting Company on the Maranello. But Josh Conker, one of the top shifter car drivers in Canada, was a top 20 driver last year too. So if he moves his way up into the top 15, I think he'll be pretty happy with that. David, anything else?
Davide Fore, we talked about him in Master Shifter. He's going to double dip and run Pro Shifter as well too. So he helps bring the total of world champions in the field to 3 as a 4-time world champion in single speed competition, a 1-time in gearbox, and then now a KZ2 master world champion in 2023.
I'll wrap up with this one because we're talking about the 26th event. Where are we here right now? There he is right there. So I mentioned Michael Valiente already, right? Talking about the fact that he won, 3, David? 3 races at the start?
Yes, 3.
Formula
Correct.
C. They used to have a Formula C category, which is essentially the late 90s version of the ICC, or the KZ rather. So the Formula C power plant, purpose-built. Michael Valiente won a bunch of races there. Italian Motors was very strong over the initial years of the SuperNationals. His son, Massimo Valiente, running this year. So the second generation driver, 15 years of age, 26 years down from the years that his dad was right there in top in karting before moving, of course, through the Atlantic program, almost to IndyCar, and then, of course, into a great ALMS career. I like to see the second generation Valiente there. I think that's fantastic.
Well, not to mention Carter McGregor. So Don McGregor's son. So they're
both racing.
And they're both racing. So McGregor's racing. So Don McGregor, the dad, is racing Master Shifter. The son is racing in the Pro Shifter category. So that's a cool story to kind of follow along. So it's crazy. Yeah, 15 years ago. Again, I was already at the Supernats. They weren't even born yet.
All right, folks, that wraps things up. I think we're pretty happy. Listen, at least for this year, we're not on the same page in terms of predictions. It is a wider prediction run. Nate didn't use the randomizer. He actually dug in and did some research, and we could get our ass kicked if things play out the way because he's made some really good picks there. I think this is going to be. I think we're going to be battling back and forth on each other every day, depending on who's fast.
Well, it's like the Supernats when you're racing. The first time you go there, you're a little jitterish. You're not quite sure what to expect. I think that was Nate's kind of mindset going into the predictions last year. Now he's had a full year of not only knowing what's going on in the world, but like he said, he did the research. He's actually looking up how to pronounce names. I've never done that in my 19 career.
No, I know you haven't.
I've never done that because I only care about how it's spelled. I don't care how you say it. I just want to spell it correctly. So yeah, I think Nate's going to give me a run. I don't think, Rob, you're going to give me much of a run.
Why am I getting thrashed already? This is bullshit.
Because you're not driving, so it's a great thing. We don't have the over-under of where you're going to finish this year, so we have to.
I am and forever will be a top 20 finisher at the SuperNationals. I'm looking forward to being in the booth this year alongside my boy Mike Smith. Of course, I've had a chance to do a couple of Rotax US Trophy finals with Henry Beaudet. Thrilled to have the three of us. I'm sure Xander Clemens is going to be coming into the booth, although he's kind of running the whole program. It's a big weekend for the guys from Kart Chaser and all the coverage there. So I'm looking forward to being back in the booth. A little pressure off of me. I don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning like I did every day last year to be ready for the morning sessions. It'll take a lot of pressure off stress-wise, but all in all, I'm looking forward to it, guys. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. We're going to knock in a bunch of coverage. It is just going to be a really, really solid 26 running. Now, a little more travel this year. We're going to drive from the hotel to the track every day and back, but we know we've got some food options. We've already got knocked out, so it's going to be a good week.
It's going to be more bonding time with us and Nate.
There
right,
you go. Nate's like, oh, God. I can get the car.
Okay, aside from the bonding time, Nate, what's kind of the one or a couple things that you're looking forward to aside from the racing and the bonding and the great meals we're going to have? What are you looking forward to for this Supernats?
If we're close to the Air Force Base and all the planes,
dude,
you have no idea how crazy
awesome.
It is.
It's an air show.
Yeah.
It was wild.
When we're taking pictures on track, it will be me here. Oh,
yeah, you'll be up.
You will be. Trust me, everybody in the grandstands does the same thing.
Everybody was doing it. I mean, and great nod to it by Chris Ortenberg in the event poster, putting the fighter jets in the actual poster, going back to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And then if you look closer, there's an homage to the Rio as well too. So Chris is just amazing at how he can put that stuff down into artwork. And it's just, I still have to get every single poster and put it up in my office. Agreed.
All right, folks, that wraps things up from our second episode here, the second installment of our outlap for this year's Superkarts USA SuperNationals. We are done here. This, of course, will be available in podcast form as well. If you don't want to watch on YouTube, you're cruising, maybe drive into the race. Perfect opportunity to either open the laptop and watch the show or just stream it on the EKN Radio Network through the downloadable app or on either of the links, of course, on the website as well, ekartingnews.com/radio or ekartingnews.com, and then the podcast as well. We'll have the live coverage coming throughout the weekend. The streaming audio, we'll do that. If you can't pick up the Kart Chaser broadcast, you'll be able to listen to the live audio. Otherwise, we're going to have social media coverage, website coverage, a lot of stuff coming throughout the entire week. David, I know you got a content plan lined up. This is we'll be busy from start to finish, that's for sure.
Yeah, looking forward. Me and Nate will be getting in there late Tuesday. You'll be already there on the ground running throughout the paddock before action begins on Wednesday. But that Wednesday morning, I know it's going to be an early wake up call, but I want to be there to see the karts roll out. That's my favorite part of the week, and then seeing the main events on Sunday. So looking forward to it.
And you cross your fingers that everybody who goes out the very, very first session realizes how cold it is, how dirty it is, and how their tires are dirty. Don't drive into the fence.
Waving yellow flags. I don't care. Just make it through.
Nate, any other final words, bud? You good to go?
Yeah. Hopefully not as cold and windy as last year.
Wear your underwear. You're from Minnesota, man. Put on your long johns. I'm bringing mine for sure.
I can't do the cold.
You can't do the cold. All right, folks, that wraps things up. As we said, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Again, looking forward to all the live coverage that we'll start rolling out. As David mentioned, I'll be there Monday night, late Monday night, so I'll roll onto the track into the venue on Tuesday to provide. We'll get the paddock insider started. I'll do a bunch of photos. We'll get some video. Maybe I'll do a live walk around the paddock as well. Everything will kick off on Tuesday and all the way through to Super Sunday. We'll wrap things up, of course, after that with the debrief, and we'll call the 26th running of the Superkarts USA SuperNationals done. Thank you so much for tuning in here to the EKN YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, do us a favor, click that subscribe button. We would love you to do that. Lots more content coming through the rest of 2023 and throughout 2024. On behalf of Nate and David, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.